أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. Welcome everybody to this Quranic analysis series. I'm very excited to be going through inshallah Surah Munafiqoon. So you see the first ayah of Surah Munafiqoon in front of you. A very inspirational surah, talks about the hypocrites, and of course very important for all of us to understand. إذا جاءك المنافقون قالوا نشهد إنك لرسول الله والله يعلم إنك لرسوله والله يشهد إن المنافقين لكاذبون. So let's break this down a little bit. So what I'm going to focus on today is just this part in this video. So إذا جاءك المنافقون, that's our focus. So I'm going to focus only on this part. So let's ignore everything else and we focus totally on this part. إذا جاءك المنافقون. Right, so let's understand what's happening here from the Arabic grammar standpoint, the analysis standpoint. It's important for us to understand. So let's look at this word by word. So it's the way you should approach the analysis of a surah is just don't rush. Just go word by word, inshallah. So first word that I'm going to look at is the iza. Iza. Now, iza, what do I know about iza? I'm thinking to myself, right? So iza, I know it means when. If you did not know, now you know. Iza meant when. And iza means when, of course. And it's a kind of a zarf. It's an ism that is a zarf. Now, what is a zarf? Zarf is an ism that is about a place or a time. So when you talk about iza and it means when, you're talking about a certain time frame when something happens, right? It's not about a place. So zarf always comes as a mudaf. Of course, the understanding behind this entire analysis is that you know these terminologies. You have the fundamentals of the Arabic grammar and you know how to decode Quran to some level, and inshallah you understand the fundamental principles of the Quranic Arabic. So iza, it comes as a mudaf. Now when iza comes as a mudaf, it certainly needs a mudaf ilay. Of course, we will dive into that a little bit later, but let's leave it at that. One of the jobs of iza is also to basically push the meaning of a past tense into future or present. So it pushes the meaning of a past tense into a present or the future. So when you show, when iza shows up before the past tense, that past tense would generally be translated as a present tense or a future. Okay, so most likely in majority scenarios as present tense. So that's what iza is. So let's leave it at that at this point, and we'll come back to iza inshallah later on. Let's move on. So when we move on, we found ja'a, right? We found ja'aka instead. So the first question I'm asking myself is, how many words are these? So ja'aka, and with my knowledge of pronouns, I know that ka seems to me as a attached form of anta. It seems to me as an attached form of anta. Anta is a pronoun, as you all know, right? And then it remains with ja'a. Now, what is ja'a? So I need to understand this. Is this an ism? Is this a fi'il? If it is a fi'il, then what type of fi'il? So let me think about this. So if I map this to the past tense fi'il, I have, let's say, a template word, a nasara. So let me write it down for you here. So I think we are all on the same page. So let me type it for you here. So I'm thinking, the way I'm thinking, this thinking is important for us to understand. So I'm thinking nasara. That's the past tense fi'il, right? So when I studied this past tense fi'il, I knew that I had to look at the ending of this fi'il to identify the past tense and the inside pronoun of this fi'il. So if I map this to ja'a, ja'a does give me the same ending, right? It is giving me the fatha ending, right? And it has an alif in the middle and it is starting with a jim, right? It sounds like a nasara, right? It's a little bit of an advanced concept in the fi'l study, because this alif in the middle is a little bit of an irregularity. So the original word had a ya in the middle. So it was jaya'a, and it was changed into ja'a. Okay. So depending upon how you see it, you will find that ja'a is a past tense fail. And because it's a past tense fail, your next job is going to be, what is the pronoun inside this past tense fail? Now, as we have just seen, it maps to nasara, so I'm going to label it as huwa. So I think there is huwa inside it. Okay, every fi'l needs to come with a fa'il, right? And you see the legend on the screen on your left hand side. When we spot a jumla fi'liya, because it's a fi'l, it is a start of a jumla fi'liya. When we spot a jumla fi'liya, we start to label it in terms of jumla fi'liya. So as soon as we spot a fi'l, we're going to label it 1. 1 is an indicator that it's a jumla fi'liya, right? And then as soon as we find the fa'il, meaning the pronoun of that fi'l, which is usually inside, embedded in the fi'l, we're going to label it 2, because we now have a fi'l and the fa'il, right? So now I know it's ja'a, it's past tense, and it's huwa. So moving on to the next one. And this is an attached pronoun we just discussed. So what happens when a pronoun is attached to a fi'l? If you remember, pronoun attached to a fi'l is always maf'ul bihi. It is always the maf'ul. So according to the legend that we have on the screen on your left hand side, so when we find a maf'ul, we mark it 3. Right? So it's a jumla fi'liya where we have identified the fi'l, the fa'il, that is a huwa, and then there's a maf'ul, which is 3 attached to it. Right? And ja'a means he came. He came. Right? Because it's a past tense. Right? Now moving on, if I move to the next level, I find another word which is al-Munafiqoon. Right, now thinking of this word, my thinking should immediately go to the beginning of this word, al. Now when I'm looking at al, what am I thinking? Is it a fi'l or an ism? We don't put al in front of a fi'l, but we do put al in front of an ism, right? And it is certainly an evidence that al-Munafiqoon is an ism. Now in the ism world, it should have its 4 properties. It should have a status, it should have a number, it should have a gender, and it should have a type. Right? So let's look at those 4 properties a little bit. So when we are looking at the 4 properties, I'm looking at this ending. This una ending is telling me that this is plural. So I'm going to write plural as 3 plus, because in Arabic language, 3 or more is a plural, right? So I'm going to write it 3 or more. It's a plural ism. And it is also telling me that this is rafa. It is marfu. It maps to muslimuna. So it's marfu, it's plural, it's jama. Okay? And then what is the gender? Because it maps to muslimuna and not to muslimatun, maps to muslimuna, which is masculine, so I'm going to label it as masculine too. Okay, and the only property remaining now is if it is common or proper, and we just saw that it has an al attached to it, so it's certainly going to be proper. Right, so that's how I'm going to look at this. Now the interesting thing that I should certainly look for is, I have said that I was in the jumla fi'liya concept. I was going in the world, in the environment of jumla fi'liya, where I found the fi'l, then I found the fa'il, which was huwa, and then I found the maf'ul, and all of a sudden there is a rafa kicking in. What is the role of marfu ism in jumla fi'liya? Now that's what I'm thinking about, right? So, and that takes me to a point that when you have a fi'l, and that fi'l is in huwa or hiya form, there is a possibility of having its doer as an outside ism. The fa'il can be outside. It doesn't have to be inside pronoun always. So if that's the case, then what I see clearly is I'm going to discard the file that I found here. The huwa inside the ja'a is now fired, and I'm going to give that role to al-Munafiqoon. Right? So because it was the huwa and it is the Munafiqoon, al-Munafiqoon is coming after, and it is marfu, it's rafa. Right? And that gives me the full crux of how this part of the ayah is operating. Okay? If I were to very quickly make a translation out of it, so we know that when we said that when you have iza pushes the meaning of the past tense into present tense. So because of this iza, this ja'a is going to be translated as he comes in present tense, because it pushes the meaning out. Right? So keeping that in mind, let me write the translation here. So I'm saying when, which is iza, okay? Ja'a was he came, so I'm going to say he come, first of all. But I also know that I just fired the huwa as an inside doer, and I'm taking al-Munafiqoon as an outside doer. So it's not going to be he come, it's going to be the hypocrites come. When the hypocrites come. And now the word ka is a maf'ul. I'm going to say you. Okay, this is the literal translation. This is a literal translation. When hypocrites come, you. But this is a problem of English language, not the Arabic language, because the word come in English needs to come with a preposition to. So you have to write to here. When the hypocrites come to you. You can write it in brackets or just like that, up to you. So you see how this part of the ayah operated and how we have decoded this, inshallah. I hope this was useful for you. I'll see you in the next video, continuing the same ayah with the later part of this ayah, inshallah. Until then, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.